If you haven't played this game yet, what are you doing with your life? Stop the video, stop whatever it is you're doing, and go play this shit. But if you're still going to watch this, well, thanks. And also, spoilers. I'll buy it at a high price. It's been more than a month since Resident Evil 4 Remake came out. The dust has settled, all the reviews are out, and most of them gave the game like 10 out of 10. At least. What do I think about it? I'm glad you asked. Okay, you didn't ask, but I'll tell you anyway. You can watch my review for the full details, but in summary, do I agree with all the reviews? With all the 10 out of 10s this game got? Not really. I mean, I personally would give it 100 out of 10. Okay, it's not perfect, but it's amazing. Really, I didn't expect this game to be this good. I didn't expect a remake of Resident Evil 4, like, it's weird. A remake of Resident Evil 2 and 3, like, yeah, I expected that, because the developers wanted to make the gameplay more modern, but Resident Evil 4, the original, its gameplay is considered modern. It's basically the gameplay that birthed the modern gameplay of today. Yeah, it has some flaws, let's say, like you can't move while shooting, you can't reload while moving, which is a bit awkward. It kind of has tank controls, like the originals, but still it's a third-person shooter, so it's weird remaking Resident Evil 4 into a third-person shooter. It was already a third-person shooter. So was this remake even needed to exist? Well, no, it didn't. It really didn't need to exist. But I'm glad it does, because in a lot of ways it improves upon the original, mostly in the gameplay department. Let's go over the differences, shall we? So like I said, in the original you couldn't move while shooting, you couldn't move while reloading. Here, you can, so that's already a big change, and is obviously the biggest change. Other than that, it's pretty much the same, but there are differences, which in my opinion makes the gameplay more fun and more challenging and more engaging. Not that I don't like the original's gameplay, but I really like the original. I really do. It's perfect in many ways, and it's in my top 10 games of all time, but eventually, all of us just figured out this exploit. Don't tell me you didn't do this. You shoot a Ganado in the head, you round kick him and all of his buddies, they fall down, then you take out your knife and just slash them to death. They just lay there and take it, without consent. Oh god. This is what happens when I do a video without a script. Anyway, it was an easy exploit. Shoot them in the head, or in the knee, kick them, make them fall down, and probably make all of their nearby friends fall down, and then you just slash them all to death. It's really easy to exploit it, and also you obviously conserve a lot of ammo. And unlike in the remake, your knife doesn't have durability, so you can just do it forever. It's a really easy exploit without any consequences, without any risks. So the fact that you can do it, and like there's no reason not to do it, it can make the game kind of boring. And you know, that's not good. Even with the exploit, the game is super fun and good, but still, it makes the game too easy, even on professional difficulty. In the remake you can do that, because of a few reasons. First of all, like I said, the knife has durability, so you can't just do it forever. Eventually your knife will break. The second and third reasons are, it's not as easy to stagger them, to open them up for a melee attack, because it takes like at least 2 or 3 shots to the head to stagger them. And it might not be such an easy thing to do when you're surrounded by enemies. And the other reason is, if you finally do stagger them and you open them up for a melee attack, your melee attack will likely only hit them. Another enemy needs to be really close to the staggered enemies for him to get hit by your melee attack. It's not like in the original where they can be 3 meters away from each other but you'll still hit them. No, they have to be really close. So all of these changes makes it way harder to implement this exploit that you could implement in the original. It's basically non-existent here. You need to really try hard in order to do that. Another difference is that enemies are way more aggressive. Maybe they even have more health, I'm not sure. I think they do. But the main thing is that they're really aggressive. And they really like to grab you. Like, really. An enemy can grab you, you can get loose, throw the enemy away. After 2 seconds another enemy will grab you. And then a chainsaw dude will come and rip you apart. Piece of shit. So you need to be careful, is what I'm trying to say. Also, let's talk about the knife a bit more. Now they've added stealth, which might seem like a bad idea at first. It's like, you might be thinking, Wait, this is a third-person shooter. Third-person action shooter, what the fuck? What does stealth has to do with anything? But it makes sense. In the original, there were encounters where the enemies don't see you at first, and you can choose which enemy to attack first. You can choose to kind of sneak around before they spot you. And in these situations, you're like, oh man, I kind of do wish there was stealth mechanics here. And now you get stealth mechanics. And it doesn't feel like the stealth is forced, like in a lot of other games. I was really afraid that they might fuck the stealth up by somehow giving you a mandatory mission where you have to use stealth, and if an enemy spots you, then that's it, game over. You know, like all of those lame stealth sequences in a lot of other games, mainly games from like 7 years ago, 10 years ago. I don't remember any recent examples, but I'm sure they exist. It's fucking lame. Like an enemy spots you and that's it, it's over. But here, if an enemy spots you, you do the logical thing. You kick their asses and shoot them. Like, why not? But it is possible to pretty much stealth kill everyone or almost everyone in an area. Not in every area, most areas you can't really do that. But there are enough areas in the game where it is possible. Of course, it also damages your knife, the durability of your knife, but damn, it's satisfying. It kind of reminds me of Metal Gear Solid, especially Metal Gear Solid 3. Snake Eater! I love that game. It's also in my top 10 games. And it just makes sense, like, if you were Leon and you had a knife, okay, first of all, you would feel really good about yourself, probably, because being Leon is fucking cool. But also, you would also use your knife to kill enemies from behind, like, why not? It makes sense. You can use the knife to finish off enemies and prevent them from transforming. You can parry enemies. You can parry the fucking chainsaw. That's so fucking cool. This is probably my favorite addition to the remake. It's so fucking cool. But what I kind of don't like, it's not a big deal like other people make it out to be, but this is something that I prefer in the original. The laser sight. Come on, it's cool and it's iconic. I like it, I really like it. Now you barely have it, but it's more like a bonus feature. It's not a main thing that you have. The bolt thrower feels like a unique weapon. It's basically the mine thrower from the original, but more versatile. You can use it for stealth kills, and you can retrieve your ammo, you can retrieve your shots, which is really good for saving up ammo, especially in the beginning. Or you can just explode everything. Also, the flame grenades are gone. I didn't even notice that. One of the things that I was a bit worried about was how they would handle the merchant, and I'd say they handled them the best that they could, which means that no matter what they would have done, nothing can replace the original merchant's epicness. His voice is just amazing. But in the remake, he's really good. He has more dialogue, and it doesn't feel forced or uninteresting or something like that. It feels like things that make sense for him to say. And he's the one who gives you side quests in this game. Yes, there are side quests, kind of. You do special tasks for him, and he rewards you with spinels, which in the original was just an item that you found. It was a treasure that you could have sold to him. But here, it's more like a second currency, which opens up a second economy. You can buy certain items with the spinels, and they can be really good items. But also you can just sell him treasure and get regular money. I really like what they did with the treasures here. It's fun like in the original, where you can put treasure on top of other treasure. You can put gems inside of masks and inside of other things. But here you can choose which gems to put, and depending on the gems that you use, you can get more money. Also, back to the spinels, one way to earn spinels is by fighting optional enemies, usually optional mini-bosses, which is really cool. These are my favorite side quests. Shooting blue medallions and shooting rats isn't really my style, I'll be honest. Let's talk about the enemies some more. Like I said, they're pretty much the same, but they're way more aggressive and way more grabby. But there are other differences too. Their voices are different, and I like the voices in the original more, so that said this game is shit. Okay, no, but I do like their voices in the original more, especially when they yell, "Одежда!" I don't know what it means in Spanish, but coincidentally, it's a word in Russian. It means close, so every time they yell that at me, I just imagine that they're yelling close, which makes it weird and funny. Also now, they mutate a bit differently. Obviously they have their original mutation, where a parasite just explodes out of their heads, and the parasite now has more range, at least it seems like it. But now they have like a mid-transformation. It's like somewhere in the middle. They're starting to transform, but they're just not there quite yet. The first enemy that you encounter has this transformation, which in a lot of ways I think it's weird and maybe bad design to make you fight a strong enemy as your first enemy. In the original you just fought a regular enemy. It eased you to the combat and to the mechanics. But here you straight up fight a really tough enemy. It's a really tough enemy in the beginning, especially on the hardest difficulty. He grabs you and immediately takes out like half of your health, and it doesn't really represent most enemies. It makes you think like, oh, all enemies will be like that? But the more I thought about it, I realized that no, it's probably a really good design. Like yeah, in a way it doesn't really make sense that your first enemy is like almost a mini boss. Obviously later it's not really difficult to deal with these kinds of enemies. But at first, at the very beginning, I almost consider him a mini-boss. But I do think that it's a good design choice because, first of all, it teaches you that, okay, this type of enemy exists, so be aware. It makes you realize that, okay, you need to be really careful with the enemies. It's not your typical standard action game where you can just shoot without a care in the road. You need to think about your actions. Also beware of grabs. And also, probably 99% of you, 99% of all players who played this game, they were probably grabbed. And 99% of those people probably instinctively or accidentally used the knife. I know I did. You don't know what to do. Suddenly you have two prompts at the same time. You need to mash a button to escape his grasp, but you don't realize what button it is in time, and you just smash all of the buttons, and you probably instinctively mash the knife button, and then you suddenly stab him in the throat. And it's a good way to teach you about the mechanic of the knife, that you can use the knife to escape a grab. You don't need to mash the button. You can mash the button and save the durability of your knife, but you lose way more health, especially to this type of enemy. So this encounter alone teaches you a lot of things at the same time, which I think is really good. It's a bit brutal for first time players, but I think it's good. It's almost like in Dark Souls. The very first enemy that you fight is a fucking boss. Literally a boss. Big boss with a big butt. And, like Resident Evil Remake, it's a really awesome game, also in my top 10. So by default, it means that this design choice is really good. Anyway, there are more differences in the enemies, like this red hooded goat enemy, Ganado. In the original, he was just another enemy, with just more health. Here, he's fucking annoying. He's kind of like the Archvile from Doom, but not the original Doom, from Doom Eternal, where he buffs all of the enemies. Here, he makes them transform. All of the enemies, or at least some of the enemies, they just transform, and it's like, oh shit, now I have to deal with all of that. You should really save some flash grenades for these encounters. He's like, they're all transformed, now you're doomed. But then you're like, nah, no thanks, bro. Boom. So obviously you immediately should go after him and annihilate him. I mainly talked about the regular enemies, the regular Ganados, but the other enemies have some changes too. The dogs behave a bit differently, have a bit different attacks. The giant bugs, same thing. The enemies are mostly the same, and that includes the regenerator. Oh, but here the regenerator can regenerate so much that he transforms. He becomes a super regenerator. I think it's called the Iron Maiden. In the original it was just either the Regenerator or the Iron Maiden. Here you fight the Regenerator, and that same Regenerator will transform into an Iron Maiden. Holy shit. Regardless, he's creepy in both versions. He's creepy in the original and in the remake. There are a few more changes, but let's talk about the bosses. Man, the bosses are good. They're pretty much the same, but some of them have a few twists. The Fish Monster, pretty much the same. El Gigante, pretty much the same. The Mendes fight, that's different and maybe more difficult. In the original, it may be difficult at first because you're kind of in a tight space. It's kind of awkward, especially with the controls of the original. It's like, oh shit, it's really close. But I think it's easy overall. Here, it also became easy eventually, although it did kick my ass a lot in my first playthrough. In the first phase, you can go up to this floor and just run around and shoot him, run around and shoot him. Try to shoot at the eye. When he falls down, you fall down as well and you stab him in the eye. Not difficult at all. In the second phase, it's just annoying. Like, maybe I'm just not that good at dodging his projectiles. And the fucking fire, man, come on. He throws wooden beams at you, flaming wooden beams at you, and it leaves so much fire and it can almost stun like you. Damn, that's annoying. but you can just crouch and dodge that way, and also try to dodge with iframes by climbing the ladder, and you just shoot him in between. Nice fight. The Gyarados is mostly the same, but the added stealth mechanic makes the fight more fun, I think. You can literally kill him using only the knife. There's even an achievement for it, which I got. I'm not sure you can do that in the double Gyarados room, but if you can, that's fucking cool. The Verdugo fight, aka the right hand fight, is mostly the same. Salazar, oh Salazar. This is the fight with the biggest difference. Like it's literally a different fight, and it's probably the most difficult fight, at least for me. And at least half of the difficulty comes from him just fucking talking all of the time. So much talking. It distracts you from the fight. It's like, shut the fuck up. Let me kill you in peace. I want to kill you and get my peace and quiet back. The spitting attack and that shit that he leaves around that explodes if you touch it. Man, that's so annoying. Sadler is also kind of the same, but more difficult maybe. I think he's more aggressive, and there aren't any metallic shit that you can push into him. The Krauser fight is something that I really like, especially what they did with the first fight against him. In the original, it was just a cutscene with QTEs, which I did love the cutscene. I think a lot of people complain about it, complain about the QTEs. I think it's a great way to implement the QTEs. I really like that cutscene. I even replayed this section over and over again just to experience the quick time events. But I think what they did in the remake is way better. They literally took the cutscene and made it into an actual boss fight. Now instead of using quick time events to not die, you parry his attacks. You slash and parry, and sometimes kick. And eventually, when you do fight him on the island, it's like there's this whole section before the actual fight where he sometimes attacks you and you need to run around. I don't know where I like it more, in the original or in the remake. I don't really care about this part, not in the original, not in the remake, but when you get to the actual fight, I think in the remake it's better. I liked it in the original, but when I discovered that you can again exploit the game with the knife, man, it just trivialized the whole fight. The exploit is so good, it's funny. It's almost sad, actually. You can literally kill him in like 10 seconds on professional mode with the knife. But here, no, in the remake it's different. It's actually a challenging fight. You can also use the knife here, you can parry him and slash him, but you should use your guns. It's a fun fight. And now we have to talk about it, the U3 fight, or the lack thereof. It just doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist in the remake. They just removed it. I really don't know why. It's kind of a shame. Like, it wasn't my favorite boss in the original, but I did like it. The first phase was weird, but tense. And the second phase, like, it was pretty good. Nothing too special, but still, nice fight. Just a nice fight against a big monster, with another monster sticking out of it. But it just doesn't exist in the remake. So let's talk about the cut content. Besides it, what else was cut? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is this part with Ashley, where she's driving around in this thing. It wasn't exactly cut, it was changed. Now she operates this thing and uses a wrecking ball to destroy a wall, and it takes her like 10 minutes to do it. Lewis's death was cut. Instead, he dies in another place later in the game, which I'll talk about soon when I'll talk about the characters and the story. I really want to talk about the differences in the story. I already talked about the bosses, but I only talked about them in the gameplay sense. Now let's talk about them in the story sense. Oh my god, I don't really like them in the remake. Like, it's not that I don't like them. Okay, I don't, but they don't have the same appeal like they have. I'm not saying that they were the greatest antagonists in the world in the original, but they had a bit more character. And I'm not even talking about their goofy dialogue, which I do think is better in the original. I do think it adds more charm and character to these characters. But besides the goofiness, it's just they interacted with Leon more. You probably already heard this criticism a few times. The removal of the radio conversations that they had with Leon makes them less appealing, makes them less of a character. In the original, they would call you, try to talk shit, and then you talk shit back, and they got pissed. Well, Salazar got pissed, but
I've sent my right hand to dispose of you.
Your right hand comes off?
Say whatever you please.
Okay.
Die, you worm!
okay. Salazar just was kind of amused, I don't know.
Enjoy the reunion with your old friend.
As a matter of fact, I did.
Wonderful.
You must be kidding, aren't you?
It was fun, it was entertaining, and it added more, it expanded upon their personality. Like you thought to yourself, oh, they are actually bad guys who try to do bad things. I need to stop them. Like they're really trying to demotivate me and show me that they're evil. But in a remake you don't get that. It's just, oh okay, it's just almost a nameless bad guy that I need to kill. Okay, whatever. You barely have any interactions with them. Of course, the main ones are Salazar and Sadler, but also in the beginning, the Big Cheese.
The big cheese. What?
He had more of a presence in the beginning. Here, he tries to copy Mr. X by wearing a fedora, a big ass hat. It's like, okay. Like, he is menacing in the remake, just like in the original, but it's okay. He's okay in the remake. But Salazar, first of all, he's fucking ugly. Not like he was a handsome boy in the original, but but that's okay. That's not the issue. I just wanted to point that out. He's just kind of bland. He's more of a royal spoiled brat. He was a spoiled brat in the original, but here it's like, he's boring. He's fucking boring.
With lore settlers,
You talk too much.
failed. Mongrel.
And Sadler is even more boring. In the original, I wouldn't say he was super entertaining, but he was amusing. He had some amusing dialogue. And again, he called you on your radio. That added more to his character. Here it's just, you don't even see him until the end of the game. You literally don't see him. You just see some flashes of him in like astral projections or whatever he does, where he speaks telepathically. You literally encounter him towards the end of the game, and it's like, oh yeah, you're the antagonist. I forgot you exist. You're also fucking ugly. Okay, so I need to kill you. That's it. Like, it's not interesting, it's not entertaining, it's not, it's meh. I won't say it's bad, but meh. Krauser was alright. In a lot of ways, I even prefer him in the remake. The only thing that I absolutely like about the original Krauser is his voice.
Well, if it isn't the bitch in the red dress.
I'm not saying anything bad about his voice actor in the remake. I also prefer Leon's original voice, but I think the new guy who voices Leon in the remake does a really good job. Maybe his voice is not as iconic as the originals, but still he has a really good voice. I also saw a video of him literally saying that the original voice actor of Leon inspired him to become a voice actor. And now he voices the same character, which is fucking cool. But Krauser's voice actor, again, I'm not saying anything bad about him. I think he did a really good job. It's just the voice itself. Like, the performance is good. The performance is really good. But the voice itself, I don't know, I just don't really like his voice. I don't know why. Not even that I don't like it. It's just, like, it's okay. I just prefer the original ones. But the character itself, I think Krauser might be better in the remake. I like what they did with his dynamic with Leon. They had a dynamic in the original too, but here it's more deep, I would say. Ashley gets a brand new section. In the original, she had a pretty brief section where she was alone. She did a slight puzzle and then ran away from some knights. But here, she doesn't do a slight puzzle, but she does run away from knights, but she can stun them with blue light, which is cool, I guess. But I must say that here it's way more spooky than in the original. And if you know the code to this puzzle, you can pretty much skip this whole section. You don't need to do the whole section again. I mean, like on a repeat playthrough, which is a really nice touch. To be fair, there isn't really cut content. It's more like changes. They took stuff from the original and just changed it. Placed it differently. I think the only major thing that was really cut from the game was the It boss fight. I said I like the QuickTime events in the Krauser cutscene, which I do. There are some other ones that I don't mind, but I'm mostly happy that they removed them from the remake. There were some really annoying ones, particularly in the Salazar statue chase and at the end of the minecart sequence. Damn, that was annoying. I think the game is overall better without the QuickTime events. I do find the boulder chase sequence funny and entertaining, but I think it's better to just not have it in the game. Speaking of which, the Salazar statue chase doesn't exist now, and the statue has a different purpose. It doesn't chase you, but instead it shoots flames at you. And the minecart sequence is more or less a turret section now, but it's cool, and Louis is with you here. He doesn't die in the castle by Sadler's hand. Let's not think about what that is. Now he dies by Krauser's knife. I did like his character here. Most people say that he got the best treatment out of all the characters, and I agree. In the original he was a cool ladies man, but he didn't really get enough time to shine. Here, he's more fleshed out, and he bonds more with Leon. We discover more about his backstory and his motivation. It's cool and I really like it. I also like the fact that the game kind of pauses when you use his key. The game is like, remember Lewis, he died for this, and he is with you now. There's also Ada. Wesker is back in the end of the game, and he foreshadows RE5's remake. Come on, let's be honest, they're going to remake Resident Evil 5, which I think will be really interesting to see how that plays out, and I have no idea if and how they will remake Resident Evil 6, but we'll see. Overall, I think this is a great remake. Like I said, we really didn't need a remake to one of the best games ever made, but I'm really glad it exists. For me, I prefer the story in the original, more entertaining, more fun, more interesting, but I prefer the gameplay in the remake. It really is better. Really is way better. Both are really good, really spectacular, but the characters and the story are better in the original, the gameplay is better in the remake, in my opinion. And now the remake replaces the original in my top 10 list of the best video games of all time. I know I probably didn't cover every single change, but I just wanted to talk about things that interested me. And hey, maybe it interested you as well. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all the things that YouTubers ask you to do. And have a good day. Oh, and the biggest change is the removal of this stupid trap. Now Ashley just stabs you. That's hot.
Thank you.